Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business English Podcast. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm Luciano, along with my co host, Mr. Pablo.
Thank you very much for having me here, Luciano.
Well, today we're going to continue the topic of the week, talking about job interviews. And this time, we're going to reveal a book called Roadmap to Success that is from John Maxwell. He's a great guy. We covered one of his books called Leadership 360 in the past. The book name is actually 360-Degree Leadership by John Maxwell. And we covered this book in another podcast, and today we're going to reveal Roadmap to Success. And this book evolves around the subject of knowing more about your career, reflection, questions you answer to know for sure you're on the right track, and if you're not, to find your purpose in life. And when we are discussing job interviews, it is really common to talk about your aspirations, your purpose, your intentions, and of course, your whole trajectory, including past, present, and future. That's why we're going to cover the book today. Pablo, would you like to compliment?
Absolutely, yeah. I just like to say that this book changed my life. It was one of the first business-related books I've ever read. Actually, it was the first I've ever read related to business, and it changed my life. So it's really worth the reading. Of course, we're going to talk about it right now. You're going to have a glimpse of what you expect, but we highly recommend you reading this book. It's awesome.
Exactly. The approach we're going to take in this episode is that we're going to bring some of the key ideas and we're going to translate them into job interviews. And I highly recommend you reading the book because it's really practical, easy to read. Like Pablo mentioned, this could be your first book, not only for him, but also for you that is listening. That's a challenge for you. And the first key principle we're going to bring is clarity of purpose. Because in the book, Maxwell says, success is knowing your purpose in life. So when you come to the job interview, they are assessing, of course, your skills, your hard skills, your soft skills, but also a lot of the companies nowadays, they are transitioning to a purpose-driven approach, meaning they want to know why you're doing things. And there is another book that I know Pablo loves is Start with Why. So when you are in your job interview and you are able to share your why, your purpose in life, not only they will know your hard skills, but they will know that you're motivated to do the job. So don't focus on memorizing things just because you want to pass on a good impression,
Yeah.
but rather really think to yourself, have a structure, of course, practice this structure, but adapt it according to the conversation you're having.
That's right. I was about to bring that book up. When you have clarity of purpose, it means that you know exactly why you're waking up every day and doing your job. You know, you're helping people. You're doing something good for your community, for the category you represent. So this is really important. And interviewers, job hunters, they can see that, and they would rather have this person on their team.
Exactly. I totally agree with what you said. And starting with why makes your life easier. And when the interviewer is conducting an interview process, he or she will talk to many people. And how can you stand out with your why? So when people ask you in a job interview, tell me about yourself, why are you interested in this role? There are many other ways to ask this question, but the main idea to keep in mind is how you're going to answer that. Always bring your why. So when people ask me something like that, Pablo, tell me about yourself, why are you interested in this role? Can you give us an example of a phrase we could use?
Absolutely. So last episode we also mentioned it. It's interesting that you start saying something you like, right? A personal interest, and connect it to what you do. So here's an example. I've always been passionate about helping companies organize complex information. That's what led me to data analysis. So what you're doing here, you're explaining your personal interest and you're connecting it to what you do, because it puts you in advantage in when you compare yourself to the other candidates. As Luciano said, you have the advantage of liking what you do. You don't just do what you do, you like it.
Yes, sometimes that may be obvious. Of course, I'm doing something I like, but when you make it clear and you bring your why, a story, you use those storytelling elements to it, that's how you stand out and people will remember you more. Great example, Pablo. Thank you. We're moving on to the principle number two, that is growing to your potential. We are all humans in the end of the day, and sometimes it's not a matter of showing you're the perfect person, but when you show that you have flaws and you are improving and you have interest in improving yourself, because there are people that study for a period of time and then they stop. They don't see their weaknesses. So when you bring it in a natural way during the conversation, it shows the person, the interviewer, that you are a human being. You know you have your strengths and your weaknesses. And as John Maxwell mentioned in the book, success is growing to your maximum potential. So you can show the things that you already mastered and the things you want to master, because it this idea makes concrete the first part of your answer, because you love the area. But what are you doing to improve yourself? Because we are constantly learning new things. So it shows you have this growth mindset. You're always aiming for mastery.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a common question they ask in job interviews. It's tell me about your strengths and tell me about your weaknesses, or what are your strengths and then what are your weaknesses, right? And a lot of people have a hard time finding weaknesses, and because they're afraid that saying their weaknesses will bring a bad view on them. But that's not true. In fact, I read a headline yesterday of an article that says that most recently, headhunters and employers in general are prioritizing people that assume they have made mistakes in the past, right? So part of growing to your potential is making mistakes. You can only grow to your maximum potential if you make mistakes. And of course, remember, do not put them as barriers in your life, right? Show what you're doing to improve. Like the example phrase. May I go to the example phrase, Luciano?
Sure, bring it to us, Pablo. When you're talking about your potential, about the things you want to improve, what can we say?
We can say, for example, I'm currently improving my skills in Power BI to expand the way I present insights. I believe learning is ongoing. So if Power BI, for example, it's a flaw or it's something that you need to improve, this is what you should say. You shouldn't say something like, oh, I don't know how to use it, or I have a hard time using it. But rather, you would say, I'm still learning, I'm still improving how to do it.
Exactly. When there is something in the job description that you must know, and you come to the interview and say, well, I hate Power BI, well, and you need to use that daily, you are you're basically telling the interviewer you don't want the job. So that's not a
Exactly.
good way to put it. Show the interviewer you are improving in any case, in any scenario you need, and always try to bring relevant things.
Yeah.
Don't go for those old cliches. Try to bring true things and also things that you are improving in reality.
Yes.
Let's move forward to principle number three, sowing seeds that benefit others. Sowing seeds. Can you tell us, Pablo, what's the meaning of that? It is one of the chapters later on in the book. Can you tell us what sowing seeds that benefit others mean?
Sure. So we could say that sowing is like planting or growing. So it's not only the act of planting, it's planting and watering. It's the whole process of cultivating, right?
Exactly. It's when you're totally correct. It's when you plant the seed, you're taking care of that. And the main idea with this concept, how can you plant these seeds in the
Yeah.
interviewer's mind? The secret is to show people that you care about not only you, but the rest of the team, about the things you do. Because that's it. It is all about planting the seeds and developing the work. Because you will work in the same position or in the same function for a few months. And when you're able to bring a story that represents that, something that you developed, a successful story of a project you collaborated, you are showing many positive aspects of you, and that you're not a that you are a person in the end of the day that is humble, that is able to listen to what other people are suggesting you. It is That's the concept, showing that you're flexible, that you're able to help others, that you are a team player, sowing seeds that benefit others.
That's right. Every action you take has a reaction, right? And when you show that you are more worried about the reaction than the action itself, so you're more worried about the positive impact of your actions, it already it tells a lot about you, right? For the employer, it shows how you were willing to do things that will bring positive impact. You're not thinking of how much you're going to work. You're thinking about the result all this work is bringing. There's a quote, I don't remember exactly now who says it, but there's a quote that says, "Do what's expected, not what's expedient." So if you're only focused about how many hours you're going to work, if you're only thinking about the actions itself, you don't show that you were worried about the results, the positive impact, right? So that's sowing seeds. It's cultivating actions that will bring good results. That's what a company needs. That's what employers are looking for.
Great quote, Pablo. I will say it again so people can understand exactly what you mean. Do, and correct me if I'm wrong, do what is expected, not what is expedient. This is a quote from Jordan Peterson, at least this is where I heard it for the first time. And doing what is expected, not what is expedient, means do things that you are supposed to do and not things that are easy to do. Because sometimes we want to do things, we want to start at the things that are easy. And the things that are easy sometimes are not the things that will move you towards the goal. So do
Yes.
the things that are hard, show the interviewer and people around you that you're capable of doing the job. Great quote. Good job. And can you tell us finally a phrase, an example people could say that represents this principle?
Sure. So you could say something like this. In my last role, I created a reporting system that saved my manager 5 hours a week. That kind of contribution motivates me. You're explaining what is the impact of your actions, right? And you are reinforcing the fact that this result is what motivates you, it's what keeps you going, helping people, right? Improving, streamlining. This should be one of your core values, and you are making it verbal throughout this phrase. When you use it, you are sowing seeds to benefit others.
Well said. Now we're getting to the end of our podcast, and here are some key takeaways. First of all, show your purpose. Not only bring things about your background, repeat your curriculum, talk about why you're there. Then demonstrate growth. Share things you're improving, how you are improving not only at work but in your life in general. You can share things that will show people you are a lifelong learner. A lifelong learner, a person that is able to learn at any moment of their lives and
Yes,
have a growth mindset.
that's right.
Lastly, highlight impact. Show people what you did in the past, and not only you, because you were part of a company, a team. So share a story that you're not the only person there in the story. Show how people contributed and how you worked in a team to accomplish a big goal.
That's it. Yeah, if you follow these three takeaways, you will be able to answer your job interview questions and stand out from the other applicants. You're going to be a more attractive option to your employee and to your hopefully future company.
Sure. And can you tell us the mission of the week, Pablo?
Absolutely. So it's important that you take action right now in order to remember everything you have learned here. The only way to remember and to apply in real life and have a good result in job interviews is to take action, right? So what should you do here? You should think of 3 short interview answers for questions that we already mentioned. For instance, tell me about yourself. And this answer should include your purpose, how you're growing professionally, and a clear impact you've had on others. So you're going to bring the three principles we have talked about, and you're going to implement them in a real answer. You have the example phrases. Of course, don't just copy and paste, but adapt it to your reality. When you do it, when you take action, you remember everything you have learned, and this works for everything. And of course, you're going to be more prepared for your job interview. Feel free to use the comments below to leave your answer. We can give you a feedback for sure, or use any AI website that can give you a feedback and correct you. It's important that you receive the feedback so you understand the mistakes you're making and the things you should keep doing that you're doing right. If you do that, I'm sure you will be a very good interviewee.
Exactly. One final word to it, Pablo, is that I really like the examples of questions you brought. So the first part is your purpose. You can start with tell me about yourself to make it even easier for people that are listening.
Yes.
You can answer the three questions. Tell me about yourself, tell me about your weakness, and what are your strengths. And you can use all of the three principles, each one of them answering one question. I'm sure that you will do a great job, our dear listener. Go ahead and answer all of the questions. Thank you so much for your time, and always a pleasure talking to you, Pablo.
It's always a pleasure, Luciano. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear listeners. I'm looking forward for the next episodes.